Hi, my name is Mark Polton. I'm a buy and hold real estate investor in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. I don't know if you can see the little pink bottle back there, but that's a can of R410A refrigerant. So I have an A-class property, and it has a York package unit on the outside. So it's got a gas furnace and, obviously an air conditioner built into it. And it's got a leak in it somewhere. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I'll get to it. This year I told my HVAC contractor, who I really like, that I want him to go out there in the off season, figure out where the leak is. It may still be under warranty, the unit. He treats me good, doesn't charge me a whole lot. And, a bottle of that R410A is probably $140, $135 shipped. Not supposed to be able to buy it, but it is what it is. And basically having that set of gauges and some other things, saves me a lot of money and heartache and time. It's one of those things where, you get a call about the AC and it's not quite working right. And, if I had to call somebody and get them over there, because, these are good paying tenants, it would have cost, I don't know, and it would have been an emergency call. I think my guy would have just gotten there or sent his assistant. Probably could have gotten there today. It's going to charge me, he'll probably charge me like $250, $300 for him to do it, maybe $350 to fill it up. For me, it was just not a big deal. I was kind of going that way anyways, grabbed my stuff. I was there for maybe 10 minutes. Was definitely low. If you don't know anything about air conditioning units, actually the colder it is, the worse off it is. They don't operate at like 32 degrees. They have to operate above 32 degrees. On this particular one, the evaporator was at 10 degrees according to the pressure gauge. So not enough. And there's tons of videos out there on that. But I was able to solve the problem, get them cold air. They're going to be good for a while, hopefully to the end of the season. It's fall's coming up, and it gets me going. It's things like that are important to me as a landlord. I don't want my tenants to have no air conditioning and no hot water. I absolutely hate when I don't have that. If they have no heat, it's not that big of a deal. I can go to Home Depot, buy some heaters, and we can get that house heated up. It may take a couple hours, and it may not be the most convenient thing, but we can get heat. You can buy heat. Hard to buy cool. So, and it all came about because my wife and I, our home, we have one unit. It's zoned into two different zones. And I remember one time, it has a leak too, pretty slow, but it just couldn't cool. And we were sleeping and it was like 79 to 81 degrees in our bedroom. And the big boys couldn't come out for like 3 or 4 days. And then he charged me $550 to throw in like 3 pounds of R410A in it. He wanted to charge me another $300+ for a capacitor, another $300 for a contactor. And I'm like, screw that. So I paid him his $550, which, it's just very uncomfortable. It was worth it as a one-time charge. And I basically said I could have purchased everything that I need for that $550. Pretty decent equipment for $550, including like a Klein multimeter, including a jug of 410A, a decent set of gauges, and some temperature probes. Probably could have gotten them really good ones used for somebody who's no longer in the business. And so I decided I was going to learn HVAC. We had to replace a unit at one of my homes in our C+ neighborhood, my favorite C+ neighborhood. It had an old R22 system on it, and when we first started building that unit, we didn't have any money. The outside compressor was dead, according to the HVAC guy I used at the time who ripped me off. I went and found a new outside unit. I had some R22, and it worked well for several years. but it sprung a leak somewhere. I hooked some gauges up to it and it was at 0. But I found a guy who was semi-retired, and I asked him, I'm like, look, I just want to learn. You know, I pay you to put this in. I'll do all the crap work. I just don't have any tools, and I don't know what to do, and I want you to explain to me what you're doing while you're doing it and go through it. It was a very eye-opening experience. 1, I learned I don't want to be an HVAC installer. 2, I learned a lot about how it all hooks together, how it works. But 3, I learned that I need to know more. So I watched actually quite a few HVAC videos on YouTube. And I think there's like the anti-DIY HVAC channel. Slightly grumpy old man, but he very, very informative. Now I can go out and when we're having a problem, I can test a capacitor, I can test a contactor. Actually, the last problem we had was with a float switch. And basically a float switch is if the drain, so air conditioners suck humidity out of the air. That's what they do, and it has to drain somewhere. If that drain clogs up, there's another drain slightly higher, and they put a float switch in there, meaning that if it starts to get filled with water, it shuts off the system, because you don't want your system to flood. Problem is, my thermostat at one of my Airbnbs was basically saying no power, but I didn't have my multimeter on me, but I could feel this thing had power. But turns out it was just inconsistent power, and I ended up having to call my HVAC guy. He came out, and he was baffled at first too. We switched out the thermostats, and we still had the same problem. So he suspected it was the float switch, and it was. And he gave me a new float switch. It didn't even charge me, and I'm like, oh man, you are my guy. But these are, HVAC is one of the more expensive, it may be the most expensive, except for maybe termites, to your home or water damage. And so you really got to know what's going on there. And I think if you're going to be in this business the way I am, you're going to buy shitty homes and rehab them, you're going to have to get to know this stuff. When a guy comes out and says, oh, I'll replace your unit for $12,000, take a hike. My last house, I got all brand new ductwork installed, and I got it inspected, and I got a package unit, and it was $6,000. Can't beat that. It's probably an ICP. It's not like a train or anything like that, but I'm not paying the electric bill, and it's got a 10-year warranty on it, so at that price, it's almost a throwaway unit. Anyways, these are my thoughts on why it's important to get to know your, to get to know your product, to get to know the trade work part of it, to get to know how things work. You can rely on the professionals, and it could take you 3 or 4 days, like it did in my case. Or, you can go there and you can do some basic stuff, and I'll leave you with this last little story. The guy who came out and charged me $550, he said my capacitor was bad. I needed a new one. I just looked up the model number of my unit, found out what size the capacitor was, ordered it on Amazon, came 2 days later, and not literally a week later, the capacitor died. I remember hearing the unit turn on and then immediately turn off. It's not designed to do that. Couldn't get it to turn back on. Went out there, replaced the capacitor, fired right back up. So, those are my thoughts. What's your thoughts? Leave them in the comments section below. Like, share, subscribe. And if you actually watch this till the end, you are the only one. I wish you success.